situation in the United States is getting more and more volatile as the Trump administration exposes the deep state and brings to light what some of us have known and reported on for many years. Thursday, President Trump issued a very important executive order, which has to do with the abuse and human trafficking going on in the world, and those who are going to be targeted will have their assets frozen and confiscated. Just by this one order, President Trump is putting a world of hurt on the deep state and those who are deliberately trying to enslave Americans. What is currently going on is a full-force war on American soil, and most Americans are completely unaware, going to their jobs every day, putting their children in indoctrination camps called public schools and Christian schools, going to church on Sunday where they can listen to an indoctrinated seminary graduate interpret scriptures for them so they can go back to work on Monday and pretend as if the world isn't going to hell in a handbasket. That's what the deep state and the New World Order is counting on. You'd be surprised which organizations and people are involved, but since there's a big picture I want to get to, suffice it to say almost every organization that pops in your head as a do-gooder is involved. This is the big lie, which is bigger than Dinesh D'Souza's latest book. With the massive indictments began the takedown of the deep state. Then we had the MEU at Langley, who confiscated computers and files of the CIA. This has been confirmed multiple times, including one of the most recent reports coming out of Russia, who are not our allies. We also have massive troop movement, which if any of you are keeping your eyes open, you've seen United Nations helicopters and vehicles moving around the country while people like Roy Potter say, don't worry about it. The United Nations is not an ally to the United States, and President Trump recognizes this fact. And we also witnessed this in the latest group attack on our country by a united stand against the U.S. moving its embassy to Jerusalem, which has to be done. In California, there are wildfires which have been deliberately set by anonymous entities all at the same time. Witnesses who I've talked to and interviewed over the phone say right before the fires there was a flash of light, and then instantly the fires started burning in groups of 5 or more. The fires were sparked by what some referred to as microwaves, which set off an electrical charge after a sort of covering was placed over the area via air, similar to the chemtrails people have been seeing for years and denied. This deliberate herding of Californians into the cities through setting wildfires also directly relates to Agenda 21, which is designed to get people to move to the city so the government can control them in large groups and take their land. If you look at the sanctuary cities and their strategic locations, you'll see these are by design under the approval of Trader 44 and Crooked Hillary. These sanctuary cities shelter the strong-armed dirt shovelers of the deep state, which are MS-13 gangs employed and bankrolled by George Soros, his buddies, and surprisingly the rogue CIA deep state. This is why it was important President Trump attacked them at Langley using the MEU. And at that, we saw a report last week, just in the last couple of days, I think it was a day or two ago. You saw the other day about the unusual sight in the sky where there was an elongated bubble which surprised gawking Californians, and it was from Elon Musk, who is not only a main player in giving technology to the North Koreans. QAnon, who rarely posts photos, dropped a very informative photo today, which features Google's recently resigned CEO Eric Schmidt and Bill Richardson, former New Mexico governor, plus the ambassador to the UN and the energy secretary in the Clinton administration, sitting with North Koreans in 2013. Musk's company, SpaceX, attempted to launch Falcon 9 this week, and that's where the photographs, and it was caught on video from the ground, and it took a horizontal detour. That's what you saw in the sky. This was a test rocket supposed to be guided by the Iridium constellation satellite navigation, which includes a series of 66 satellites designed to guide missiles to predetermined destinations, and it was thwarted by the Trump administration this year. This system was strategically put in place by Trader 44 after he defunded NASA, directing the money to SpaceX, a private company. The technology is what the North Koreans are waiting for, and Musk is set to assist them under the direction of the deep state Trader 44 rogue CIA. Because of President Trump stopping the use of the Iridium constellation satellite system, Musk's rocket failed the other day, and that's what people were seeing in the sky over California, and it was seen as far away as Arizona. At this point, President Trump has taken the power away from the deep state rogue CIA through the MEU and other means, and according to the posts of QAnon, is getting ready to carry out one of the biggest takedown operations we've seen in the United States ever. Q posted a photo of George Washington crossing the Delaware on Christmas Day, indicating there would be a surprise attack coming. I believe this could have something to do with the recent list of resignations, which are actually quite massive if you think about it. You can see the list below in a link. Also, this is why Trader 44 and Crooked Hillary approved the URANIUM ONE deal. The deal allowed the delivery of uranium through Iran to North Korea, which is another reason Trader 44 needed the Iran deal. Without that, how could he get the uranium to North Korea? And where did the uranium come from? It came from the Hammond Ranch in Oregon and led to the arrest of the Bundys in Nevada and the murder of Lavoy Finicum. Both of these ranchers were sitting on the uranium the government wanted to supply to Iran and the North Koreans under the direction of Trader 44 and Crooked Hillary. In addition to this, Trader 44 and Crooked Hillary are very well aware if they could get the uranium into the hands of a civilian agency out of government control, they would be able to control the direction of the missiles using both Iran and North Korea as supposed threats to the people in the United States and scare them. Once they were out of office, they could still control what's going on when it's with a private agency. President Trump is the person who's thwarting all of their plans, which is why the rogue CIA and of the deep state are in such a frenzy. Using the deep state rogue CIA, Trader 44 and Crooked Hillary could implement their Agenda 21, control the grid, control commerce, and anything else the American people believe is their livelihood. This is why they're so upset Hillary lost the election. It was a direct smack in the face of the New World Order. This is what liberals aren't getting. They think Hunger Games was just a movie and Captain Kirk is still on the Enterprise in deep space. They fail to see the reality of the situation, and all of this goes hand in hand. All the pedophile takedowns, the liberal agenda to keep open safe havens in their strong-armed, dirty work of the MS-13 gangs and the instigation of cryptocurrency. All of these things are related. If everything goes digital, it's one hack away from being turned off, thus scaring the people, pushing them into the cities and into these camps where the elites have their own way to generate electricity for themselves and monitor the people, enslaving them in the process. You should see the caves in Kansas City, Missouri underground. They are all there, dedicated to helping these government officials. Yes, underground in Kansas City. Seen them. This isn't a dream anymore, folks. It's really happening, and it's right under our noses. Look at Chicago. There's media blackouts, and although some will differ with my opinion, there are UN troops there right now disguised as National Guard. QAnon hinted to this. United Nations troops have been training with our military for years. How hard would it be for them to hide under our noses? We know they're here. We also see them all the time, and then they suddenly disappear. You mean they change clothes and suddenly blend in? Pretending to be the law and order because of constant chaos led by gangs in Chicago under the direction of MS-13, controlled by the rogue CIA of Trader 44 and Crooked Hillary. California is an experiment to see what people do. So is Chicago. Expect tomorrow and the coming weeks to be very violent and the liberals to be out of control, eaten up by a few groups which will be very ferocious, more ferocious than you know. Expect distractions and false flags and the media to ignore important events. It's happening, and it's happening fast. Merry Christmas to those of us who've been waiting a long time for the exposure of this evil.
We say that evil is dark, but this metaphor is imprecise. Evil is actually intensely bright, so painfully bright that people look away from it. Many even deny its existence. Why? Because once people acknowledge evil's existence, they know they have to confront it. And most people prefer not to confront evil. That is what led to World War II and the death of 55 million people. Many in the West denied the darkness of Nazism. They looked the other way when that evil could have been stopped and then appeased it as it became stronger. We are reliving 1938, the year that democratic Western nations assured a police state, the Nazi regime, that they would do nothing to prevent its expansion. That year, the British Prime Minister, Neville Chamberlain, went to Munich to negotiate with Adolf Hitler. He left believing Hitler's promises of peace in exchange for Germany being allowed to annex large parts of Czechoslovakia. Upon returning to England, Chamberlain announced, "Peace for our time." The 2015 agreement between America, Europe, Russia, China, and Iran mirrors 1938. The Nazi regime was a police state. The Islamic Republic of Iran is a police state. The Nazis' greatest aim was to exterminate the Jews of Europe. Iran's greatest aim is to exterminate the Jewish state. The West dismissed Hitler as the Jews' problem. The West dismisses Iran as Israel's problem. Nazi Germany hated the West and its freedoms. The Islamic Republic of Iran hates the West and its freedoms. Germany sought to dominate Europe. Iran seeks to dominate the Middle East and the Muslim world. And just as Britain and France appeased Nazi Germany, the same two countries, along with the United States, have chosen to appease Iran. In fact, there's considerably less defense for the Iran agreement, which awards Iran $150 billion in currently frozen assets and the right to keep its nuclear program, than there was for the Munich Agreement. Prior to 1938, Hitler had not publicly proclaimed his aim to annihilate Europe's Jews. Yet Iran has been proclaiming its intention to annihilate the Jewish state for decades. There were no massive death to America demonstrations in Germany, as there regularly are in Iran. In 1938, Germany had not been responsible for terror around the world, as Iran is now. Nor was Germany responsible for the death of more than 1,000 Americans, as Iran has been in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Lebanon. The Neville Chamberlains of 2015 defend the agreement with Iran on two grounds: that the only alternative is war, and that this agreement has the capacity to bring Iran into the, quote, community of nations. The war argument is a falsehood for three reasons. First, the alternative to this agreement was continuing and tightening the sanctions that were weakening the Iranian regime and greatly diminishing its ability to fund terror groups around the world. Second, because the agreement so strengthens Iran, it makes war far more likely. When evil expansionist regimes get richer, they don't spend their wealth on building new hospitals. They expand. Third, Iran has been at war with America for decades. And whoever believes that the agreement will bring Iran into the, quote, community of nations betrays a breathtaking ignorance of the Iranian regime. The Iranian regime is composed of religious fanatics who are morally indistinguishable from ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, and all the other mass-murdering Islamist movements. The Iranian regime has executed more people than any country except China and killed more than 6,000 Iranians just for being homosexual. A woman in Iran is not allowed to leave the country without the permission of her husband. The Iranian regime repeatedly calls for the extermination of Israel. No other country in the world is committed to annihilating another country. Iran is already the world's greatest funder of terror organizations. Imagine what it will do with another $150 billion. Imagine what it will do with the removal of the current weapons and missile embargo. Imagine what it will do with its intact nuclear infrastructure. This deal allows all three. Very few people have a chance to do something about the greatest evil of their time. When it votes on this agreement, the American Congress has that chance.
A very serious charge tonight against the Obama administration. A bombshell report alleges the government deliberately sabotaged its own efforts to fight terrorist, drug, and money laundering operations. Correspondent Doug McKelway tells us why.
Today, the United States, together with our allies and partners, has reached a historic understanding with Iran.
At what cost was the nuclear deal with Iran reached? A Politico investigation alleges the Obama administration, in an effort to reach the agreement, drastically curtailed efforts to interdict cocaine shipments into the U.S. by Hezbollah, a terrorist organization closely allied with Iran. For years, it has been known that Hezbollah had been active in the Latin American drug trade. In 2016, a DEA official told a congressional panel that Operation Cassandra, a massive law enforcement effort to stop the Hezbollah drug trade, was inexplicably curtailed.
For some unknown reason, we seem to have missed out on one opportunity after another. We seem to have forgotten about the importance of disrupting the supply chain.
Politico reports, quote, when Project Cassandra leaders sought approval for some significant investigations, prosecutions, arrests, and financial sanctions, officials at the Justice and Treasury Departments delayed, hindered, or rejected their requests.
There clearly is a huge pattern here. I mean, we pull out of Iraq largely because the Iranians want us out of there. And President Obama has no political and moral commitment to an Iraqi end state that's in the United States' interest. From 2009 January to the entire 8 years of the Obama administration, hands off anything to do with the Iranians and their proxies.
Several former Obama administration officials did not respond to our request for comment. A spokesman for Mr. Obama told Politico the administration was hard on Hezbollah, quote, through tough sanctions and law enforcement actions.
The Trump administration has taken an entirely different tack in its Iran policy. That course change reflected in some sober comments from Secretary Mattis here on Friday to reporters when he told them, quote, everywhere you find turmoil, you find Iran's hand in it. Brett?
Doug McKelway at the Pentagon. Doug, thanks.